The Solo Coach Podcast. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to wherever you are listening, and welcome to the Solo Coach Podcast. I'd like to start this episode with my intention. My intention behind this podcast is to spread knowledge, wisdom, love, and joy, and this week's guest is full of all four of them. So it is my honour and privilege to welcome my mum, Lyn Cobley, to the show. Welcome, Mum. Good morning.
Good morning, David.
So to introduce you, it's impossible to put into words what my mum means to me and how much she's done for me over the last 32 years. But what I will say is this: we are incredibly lucky to have such a close relationship, and I'm forever grateful for every second of time that we get to spend together and for all of the incredible conversations which we have, another of which is about to happen. We share a passion for all things personal development, and my mum has been the biggest supporter throughout all of my major life decisions. She's one of my top advisors, most trusted counsellors, and definitely sits on the board of directors for the Solo Coach. So, Mum, to get us started, I would like to ask, where does your love of personal development come from?
Well, David, I was looking back this morning and thinking, where did this all start? What was I looking for? What was I searching for? So I looked back actually to my Amazon account and thought, what were the first books? When was that? I was looking at reading. I was getting into reading more. And I went back to 2013 and I thought, gosh, that's a long time ago. And I found then I was reading a lot of autobiographies. I was reading Malcolm Walker. He's the founder of the frozen food giant Iceland. He started Iceland in 1970 with £30 initial capital. And now Iceland today has got annual sales of 4 billion. Now, this was a man who came from an ordinary background, who was a self-made man. He battled through and he achieved something. And that was sort of inspiring to me. And then I went on, I liked Dragon's Den at the time. Duncan Bannatyne was on that a lot. His book is called Anyone Can Do It, Autobiography. And I enjoyed reading that. I then went on 2017 reading Mary Berry, the famous cook, her life story, how she made the big name that she is now today. And then right up to 2019, I came across the Happiness Project, which is Gretchen Rubin. How I found her podcast, I'm not really sure now, and I can't really remember. But I'd started listening to Gretchen and then got the first Gretchen book. Now, Gretchen talks about, in the Happiness Project, how you can be happier, starting right now, with small, actionable steps accessible to everyone. And happiness is contagious. And I thought, oh, that sounds great. So read that book, found Gretchen, really enjoyed the podcasts. And that's where it all sort of got going for me. And Gretchen's book and Gretchen's podcast led to a start of other books. I got a Kindle. A Kindle, then once you start reading anything of that genre, brings in other ideas, gives you other writers' books to read, and the list just went on and on. And at one time, I could be reading 3 books at once. I couldn't get enough information. Why is that? Now, Gretchen helped me there. Gretchen recognises something called the 4 tendencies. And in the 4 tendencies, there are upholders, there are questioners, there are obligers, and there are rebels. And reading the description of a questioner, I thought, yes, that's me. Forever asking a question, forever chasing, what's next? What's behind this? Why? Searching for answers all the time. And that sort of recognised me and thought, that's me. That's why I'm searching for another book and more information. So that's sort of where it all started a good 10, 12 years ago.
Thank you, Mum. Wow. Thank you for sharing. It's funny that you prepared a bit of a summary there of the Happiness Project by Gretchen. I also had a summary ready because I was aware of how you were going to answer that question, as it was a really special book for both of us and it was a turning point. So you were reading these autobiographies and then came Gretchen's book, and it sounds like what was super interesting about it there, you mentioned how you learned something about yourself in the reading of that book. Do you think that was where the passion and the interest, kind of where that flame was lit, where it began in
Yeah,
the reading a book and learning about yourself?
definitely. It turned the volume up for me on self-development. And then it led me on to finding the big names, as I call them, Tony Robbins being the big name, Jack Canfield. Looking at when I then went on to get Jack Canfield's book,
Success
looking for
Principle.
the title, Success Principles, of course. Yeah. And I remember sending you off to America on a holiday to see friend and family and saying, here, read Gretchen's book, The Happiness Project. And I thought underneath, well, he's on a plane, he's on a long flight. This is the best chance I've got of making him read this book that I felt you should do. But going over then to Jack Canfield, Success Principles, I remember reading that, and we'd talk often on the phone, and I'd say to you, I've read another chapter, I've read another chapter. And then I recall saying to you, I've got to a chapter, David, that I can't get past. What's that, Mum? I said, it's what do you want? And I just couldn't figure out what I did want. And I was ages and ages reading that chapter and trying to figure out, what did I want in life? Where could I find my happiness? What job did I want? What relationships was I looking for? What future did I want to build for myself? And that book helped me extremely great amounts to sort of go down a road to figure that out somewhat.
Thank you for sharing. It's funnily enough, with the Success Principles, I've started rereading that book just this last week, as I finished a book I was reading all about the 8 Forms of Wealth by Robin Sharma, and I started again because I distinctly remember the first chapter of that book, the Success Principles, that's behind me. The first chapter of it talks about Jack encourages you to read it once through and then have a break and then come back and read it again so that the content can really sink in. And for me, straight away, it's nice rereading a book when you're familiar with the content already and you're having lots of flashbacks, remembering how you felt when you read it before, but then reading it years later. I think it's about 8 years since I read it the first time. It's interesting how I have more of the answers now, and I'm reading it from a different perspective. It's like looking at it through a different lens. Don't know if you feel like that with books.
I do a lot. I look back and I think what I wanted then and what I want now has changed massively. And for me, it's changed a lot in this past year, as you know. But certainly for you, I see you develop and I watch you change, and I know your goals change and your ideas change and develop. And that's just part of the story of personal growth.
And if I could also ask, how did you get into podcasts, and how has your love of podcasts evolved over the last few years?
Well, looking back, it must have been the first podcast was Gretchen Rubin. Now, how I found it, I don't really know, but it's got to have been around 2019, 2020. Perhaps in a book she suggested for us to listen, the reader to listen to her podcast. And I started listening to it while I was cleaning the house, washing up, made the chores easier, made them more interesting. And then when I was on a long drive in the car, I'd like my podcasts. I found that better than the radio, better than music. And I wanted to be encouraged. I wanted to be pushed and talk to somebody with some enthusiasm for life. and somebody who's looking to change and change for the better. And they always say your 5 closest people to you are those ones you reflect on, you listen to. And if they are a selection of people who are grumpy and miserable with life and see the glass as half full, then they're not going to uplift you. They're not going to carry you to a better place. But if they're people full of enthusiasm, full of life, full of get up and go, who see life as a challenge and what's going to come next and everything's great, then that's going to wash off on you.
Exactly. I can't agree more. You'd, like Tony Robbins says, you do become a reflection of the 5 people you spend most of your time in life with. And I know for a fact that your glass is overflowing, as you are someone I come to often for a bit of positivity and motivation and enthusiasm when the solo coach cup is perhaps a little bit low. It does happen from time to time. But you mentioned there, you touched on that you've had a bit of a journey this year and sort of reevaluated your perspective on life. And that's definitely something I want to come to in today's conversation. But before we do that, I know that when I set this podcast up, it was following a period of being away for a very long time. You touched on how you gave me the copy of the Happiness Project when I went to visit my friend in America. That was actually my first solo voyage out of the country on a plane from London over to Massachusetts to see my friend in New Hampshire. And that sort of sparked this interest in going solo traveling. So fast forward a couple of years, I went on a 4-month sabbatical and then decided to go on a whole year around the world, starting with New Zealand on my own. And that then led to me setting up the Solo Coach podcast from this love and this joy of solo travel. And I know there's an awful lot of content online, not only on my podcast, but on other podcasts and blogs about the perspective of someone going solo traveling, getting ready, preparing, and then going and doing it. But I've never found much content from the perspective of the people who stayed at home, the people they left behind for a period of time. So I wanted to ask you, and there's 3 parts to this question, but the start of it is, how did it feel for you when I first told you, Mum, I'm going to go away on my own, I'm going to go out of the country and I'm going to go traveling? What was that like?
It was a bit scary at first that you were going on your own, but I'd got so much faith in you. And I was so convinced, my David, he can look after himself. He's been living alone. He's been living in shared houses. He's had different jobs. He's quite capable. So I didn't fear that you weren't capable of coping with being on your own, coping with the travel, dealing with the flights and the technicalities of moving from area to area. That bit didn't worry me. The fact that we'd got WhatsApp, we could talk on the phone, we hadn't got huge bills attached to it, was great. And I'd got confidence that you'd keep me in touch, you would speak to me, you wouldn't leave me for weeks on end with no phone call to Mum, panicking where you were. And I just knew you were a sensible young man.
So you had faith and trust and believed in me, but at the same time, it must have been pretty nerve-wracking from your perspective, thinking, "Oh my goodness, what is he about to do?"
I think what was hard is when you tell other people, David's going off, is going to Australia, is going to New Zealand, and they'd say to me, oh, just really casually, oh, you won't see him again. Your son's gone now. That's it. Better life over there. This country's rubbish. This country's not what it was. You'll not see him again. He'll make a life over there. And that was hard to keep hearing from lots and lots of different people. Nobody seemed to be positive about it. And then some would say, oh, a bit of travel, he'll get it out of his system, he'll be back. Some would say, oh, he's going to run off with a foreign girlfriend. That's the last you'll see of him. And then I'd go away and feel real deflated, really worried then.
I'm glad you shared that. Thank you for sharing that, because I know from my perspective, it was people saying different things to me, but along the same lines, I found that a lot of what people say tends to be a projection of their own fears and insecurities. And people would say things to me before I went traveling, like, "Oh my goodness, have you not considered your pension? And you'll regret this. You'll never find a job like that ever again. And what if you run out of money? How on earth are you funding this? You're going to run out of money and end up homeless. Hope you've got enough money to get home." People will say all these sort of outrageous things, and you can wave your girlfriend goodbye because she won't wait for you to come back. And none of it ended up being true. My pension's fine. I came back and got another job quite quickly. And my girlfriend, a wonderful girlfriend, waited for me. And then we met up multiple times throughout the year and had some phenomenal adventures together. So all of these worst case scenarios didn't come true. And you, from your perspective, I did come home and had a wonderful time and came home and said, "You know what, Mum, I've been around the world and I think Leeds is where I want to live." And I tell everyone now that I meet, Leeds is the centre of the world, and I think it's the greatest city in the world to live in, because for me, it just feels like home. So, what was it like then while I was on the trip? And at that time, I had no end date as such.
No, no. While you were away and in New Zealand, especially, and having a great time, we'd have lots of lovely conversations, and you'd phone me, you'd send me fantastic pictures. And I could go away saying, "Oh, today he's been up in an aeroplane." And then one of my favourite pictures was of you just sitting on the edge of the yacht at sunset out at sea. And I thought, well, this is the life. I can't deny David this life out there having all this fun, just because I daren't go. But then it did cross my mind, well, if he does settle in New Zealand, I've got to get a passport. I've got to get flying and I've got to go. And nothing would have stopped me, because I thought, well, if that's where he's going to be, I will go out and see him. But alongside you sending me lots of pictures and we having lots of conversations, people in general around me had start to be, "Oh, David's just away, and is David okay?" And I'd say, "Yes, he's fine. I've spoke to him." And then they wouldn't ask any more. And there was sort of, for me, nobody to talk to. Nobody was really interested in seeing all of David's 46 pictures that day. No one wanted to hear the tale of David spoke to me while he was paddling in the sea, watching the sunset, had a wonderful day, and he was telling me, "Man, this was a great day." And that was hard. Nobody wanting to really hear the details. And it was hard with not having anyone to share that with. So that was tough for me. And missing you, missing seeing you, missing you coming round for a Sunday lunch. But like I say, the WhatsApp video is a great thing, because we could talk, we could send pictures, and watching YouTube on the TV of the areas you were visiting as well was really helpful to me, because I felt I was there with you. And you'd say, "Oh, I've seen this, Mum, I've seen that." I say, "Yeah, I've watched the video and it's great." I remember one particular train ride you had, and it was one of the most scenic railway journeys in the world. Do you recall the name?
Yes, it was the Great British, not Great British Railway Journeys. No, it was that's going to come to me in a minute. It was the
That's right.
Transalpine crossing from Greymouth on the west side of New Zealand over to near Christchurch on the east side of New Zealand. It's one of the greatest railway journeys in the world, and you bought me a ticket for my 30th birthday.
Yes. And that was just fortunate for me. I could get a full YouTube video, and the filming was wonderful. And as you were telling me about the journey, I could then watch it on the TV, and I was with you in my thoughts. But how can you deny your son that? You can't. Yes, I missed you like crazy, and I wondered, would you return or would you not? but I was patient enough to wait and see.
Wow. Thank you so much. I lost for words, but no, these are I was thinking as you were speaking there, these are the wonderful secondary benefits of going traveling. And I say secondary because the primary is obviously you're out there, you're having fun, you're meeting people, you're growing your confidence, etc., etc. I've spoke about that many times. But the other benefits are people back home are actually watching more than you think. And then not only were you coming along and sort of traveling vicariously with me, I felt like you were with me on the journey. I was telling you every day, this is where I've been, this is what I've been up to, these are the conversations I've had, which was quite a stark contrast from rewind a year, oh, mum, I've had a crap day, I'm really stressed and fed up. That was a nicer conversation for you to be on the receiving end of. But more importantly, I remember some of my highlights from the trip were hearing that you had been out somewhere you've not been before. You'd been out there on your own and you'd been and had a day trip and you'd met some people and various people back home, yourself included, were going out and doing things outside of their comfort zone, outside of their routine. And you even directly said to me, if you can go out there and go and volunteer on a farm in New Zealand during a cyclone and, save the life of some calf and whatever else, then I can definitely go and take myself on a day trip. And then you did. You did. And I was thinking, wow, this is amazing. Not only am I having a great time, mum's back home doing something she wouldn't normally do. And sort of, we're both stretching our comfort zone. We're both doing something out of the ordinary. How wonderful is that?
I recall I told you you bought me the ticket for Kew Gardens, which was in London. Mum doesn't do London. It's scary. It's too far. Can't go there. So off I shot very quietly on my own to London. I had to tell my brother I was going with a friend. I had to tell my partner I was going with a friend. But secretly, David and I knew I was going alone. But golly, it was a coach trip. I was probably one of the youngest on there. It was full of elderly people, pensionable age, having a great day out. And it turned out I went on the hottest day in the year, and I don't do heat. But I was charging around from place to place, having a great time. And I think I wouldn't have had the confidence to do that if you weren't doing the things you were doing. It was your confidence and your travel that, like you say, pushed me forward to think, well, he can do it. I'm sure I can.
This is it. This is the positive ripple effect. And my intention isn't to shine the spotlight on myself. On the contrary, it's to shine it on everyone else, yourself very much included, who went out there having noticed and kind of watching what I'm doing, and then went out there and did something themselves. And I remember telling you at the time, I think you played it down to me and said, "Oh, it's I'm not going away. I'm not leaving the country. I'm just going on a coach trip to London, but it's actually really big for me." And I said to you, Mum, it's huge. You don't need to leave the country to go solo traveling. You don't need to even leave your city to go solo traveling. Because solo travel, and I spoke about this with Jerk on episode 2 of the podcast, solo travel, it's a mindset. It's going somewhere new and being open to experiencing something new with people you haven't met before, and kind of hoping for the best, and then being open to whatever happens. Sometimes things go well, sometimes things go badly. And that can be as much as going to your local pub or cafe and going and just sitting down and then striking up a conversation with a stranger. That's really scary when you've not done it before. But then it's no different to doing that in New Zealand. Doesn't matter where you are. It's just doing something different and doing something out of your comfort zone, I would say.
I think at the time as well, I was ready to go and start yoga classes. I was encouraged to go and start Tai Chi. I went to Pilates, and I was entering a class with not a face that I knew. I wasn't walking in with a friend. I was going in there on my own. And I think your courage gave me the courage to do things. If you could walk into a new overnight accommodation and start chatting to people straight away, people from all areas of the world, surely I can walk into a local yoga class and say hello to everybody and get my mat out.
Exactly. Although that's hard in itself. I remember doing some yoga classes and meditation yoga classes more over in Australia and feeling quite inadequate and noticing that everyone had all this matching gym gear. And I arrived sort of in my scruffy traveller shorts and a t-shirt with a hole in, and then proceeded to do things that weren't the correct poses at all. So that was probably one of the scariest things I actually did. Even though, just because it was in Australia, it's irrelevant. You're just in the room you're in, surrounded by strangers, making a bit of a fool of yourself.
Well, the best thing I did was get a t-shirt that said smile on it. In big words, straight across the front, it said smile. And that's me. I'll just walk in, smile, and have a go.
That's it. What have you got to lose? If in doubt, make a joke of it, have a laugh. So on to before we move off this topic, I think I was going to say, so we spoke about your experiences before I went traveling. We spoke about the experiences while I was traveling. What would you advise to others if there's another parent or friend or of a loved one who has someone in their family who's going to go away for a prolonged period and they're a bit nervous, a bit worried about it? What would you say to reassure them, and what can they do to support each other while that loved one is away?
Yes, I think what I'd say there, if your loved one's going away, you've got to have the contact. So you've got to agree that you talk every day or every week at a certain time. You've got to accept lots of photographs, and you've got to pester them to say, right, I want pictures of everything. Send me tons of photographs. As I'd say to you, David, flowers. I want to see the flowers of New Zealand. I want to see the flowers of Australia. Send me lots and lots of pictures. So keep that contact up. But for friends in a family, you've got to be asking, how's your son doing? Where's your son now? What's he done this week? Where is he going to next? How's he coping? And not in a negative way as, oh, has he ran out of money yet? Or has he had a meal today? That's not what you want to hear. You want to hear what's he seen, who's he met, where's he going next, and join the adventure with them, because that's the best way. And as I said to you, I shared the adventure with you through in my front room, through watching YouTube on the TV, through your photographs, through our conversation. But you do need your friends, your neighbours, your family to keep supporting you as a parent and saying, where is your son now? Where's your daughter now? Where's your best friend now? And just keep the interest up. So that's what's needed.
I love that. So it's ensuring good communication is agreed to beforehand with the person who's going away, and
Yes.
then actually being just open and curious and genuinely interested in your friends, your partners, your loved ones, loved one who is going away, and just being open and inquisitive as to and wanting to hear and see the. And I'm also thinking, as you spoke there, what if the person going away, in this case it was me, thinks, oh goodness, sending all these pictures back home, maybe I'm rubbing it in, maybe I shouldn't send these pictures, and perhaps they've had enough of seeing my pictures.
No, it was never rubbing it in. Even when the phone call had come, you're on a beach, your feet's in the water, you've been swimming in the sea, you were swimming with a fish, you were doing all the things I would have loved to have done. But by you sharing it, I was there with you in my thoughts. So it was great to me. And I love the pictures, and I can look back through those photos and say, oh, I remember when he did that. I remember when he was there. And I enjoy it again with you, looking back. But I suppose that's part of my mindset, that I wasn't jealous of you going. I wasn't envious or oh, it's all right for him. He's young enough to do it. or he's got enough money to do it. I didn't feel like that. I was happy that you were going, happy that you got the confidence to give it a go, and happy for you. And as you said, the phone calls that are the wonderful ones were far better than the phone calls I was receiving that was, David's fed up again, David's miserable again, and I was trying to cheer you up and carry you through. And those days I was the one walking away and worrying for 2 or 3 hours, and then wondering, how is he today? Has he had a better day? Is he a bit happier today? Is he still feeling lonely and fed up today? And those are the harder phone calls than the ones when you're away and having fun and meeting new people and singing karaoke. I remember you phoning and said, "Oh, Mum, I've been singing karaoke in almost a foreign language, and it's been great, Mum."
I love
Do you
that.
recall that?
I do remember, yes, several times, different countries, very often in alcohol infused. Bit of Dutch courage there, but yeah, very fond memories. What happens in another country stays in another country in terms of karaoke and bad singing. I absolutely loved what you pointed out there. You made such a good point. It's so easy when you're going on a trip like that, and I had these feelings myself of thinking, do you know what? Am I actually being a bit selfish here, going away on this trip? Am I not considering my family here? And you ask yourself these very hard questions, and you think, is this a bit cruel and a bit unfair? And I don't remember anyone saying to me directly, this is unfair on your family. But I definitely remember feeling, particularly in terms of my partner back home, having that thought of, is this quite selfish and unfair for me to expect them to just wait for me to get back? And is this unfair on my family that I might not see them for a year? But then what you pointed out there was, it's one thing to go away and have fun and broaden your horizons and expand your comfort zone and have an amazing adventure so that everyone back home can join in with you. It's a whole nother thing to say, what I'm going to do instead is stay at home and stay where I am and be miserable and unhappy, because that's more fair on my family and loved ones. Whereas in reality, it's probably not more, it's probably less fair to do that and expect everyone around you to keep rallying around you and rising you up when you feel that your glass is just empty, versus going out there, taking action, grabbing the bull by the horns and saying, right, I am going to take drastic action and fill my glass so that it's overflowing and can fill up other people's glasses back home as well. Yeah.
You certainly returned a different person, and you returned a better person, and a person who will now have more enthusiasm for life and do more and be more of an adventurer. There's nothing worse than hearing a phone call that, "Oh, I've just been at work all week. What have you done this weekend?" "Oh, I've done nothing. I went to the pub. I had a few too many. I felt sick on Sunday. I sort of lost Sunday because I didn't feel well." That's no life. That's not living. The better life is, "Oh, we've just planned another mini break. We're going away again. We've been out tonight. We've done something different." And that's a more enthusiastic person. And having the adventures you had will make you have more adventures in the future. So it'll be better for your girlfriend. It'll be better for me, because perhaps sometimes you'll take me as well.
Absolutely, making it happen. But yeah, just to conclude that topic again, I just want to swing the spotlight back onto you again, just to say, you know, having that support back home meant the world to me. It enabled me to keep going. I wasn't ringing home and getting asked, when are you coming back? Are you coming back? We missed you. We're really fed up. It's really crap without you. We need you to fix whatever. I never got any of that. All I got every time I spoke to you was just masses of encouragement, enthusiasm, positivity, and encouragement to keep going and doing the scary things. And you used to say to me on a regular basis, don't not do something because of the price. Don't not do something because it's scary. do it all, see it all, experience it all, and then come back and tell us what it's like. And, or just send the pictures, send the videos, tell us over the phone, but don't come back with regrets. Don't miss opportunities. Don't not experience it fully because you're a bit worried about spending that 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds. You just say, for goodness sake, go out there and take advantage of it, because you might not get this opportunity again. And having that level of support and encouragement from you and from my partner as well, just a game changer, because without that, it could have been a very different story. So again, shining the spotlight onto you, your encouragement, your enthusiasm, your unshakable belief in me, and that confidence that you were just continually reminding me, you can do this, David, you've got this, there's nothing you can't do. That uplifted me and kept me going on the days when I was struggling, as well as the days when I was loving it, because it was a roller coaster. So thank you.
Yeah. There were times when you'd go to a place, you'd perhaps start to stay a little bit too long, and then I'd say to you, come on, David, it's time to move on. This is not going quite right now. The road's getting a bit bumpy. Let's see where you're going next. Pack your bag up now, move on.
Mm. So you could help me recognize and make those decisions, and sometimes give me that prompt when you could tell that I'd got everything I was going to get from a place, and I was hanging around a little bit too long.
Yes. One place you were getting too comfortable. Life was very laid back. The people were extremely laid back, and you weren't filling your days. You were just mopsing around a bit and a bit too laid back for me. And I thought, he's had enough here. These people around him aren't quite right now. He's had a rest. He's had a break. Come on, back on full speed. Get going again.
Wow, it's such a shout out for solo travelers. You can put your time into planning a trip. You can get all the maps, all the apps, all the gear, all the kit. But probably one of the most important things you can do if you're thinking of going solo traveling, if not the most important thing, is very carefully consider who your supporters are going to be, who your support network is back home.
Yes.
Consider who you're going to speak to and how often, and be very, very deliberate and intentional and very careful who you pick. Because if you pick the wrong people, or don't pick anyone at all, you could end up speaking to the wrong people and then making the wrong decision, because at your time of the most need, because there will be a time when you're out there on your own and suddenly it dawns on you that you really are on your own and you need a bit of help and just someone to talk to. That's when it's crucial and critical that you choose the right person to talk to, who's going to be uplifting and encouraging and supporting, and not just going to say, you've done everything you need to do now. How about you get the next flight and come home? And let's just forget all of this nonsense, and let's just get you back home and get you back to work. And let's just pretend this never happened. Because some people would say that.
Yes. And that's just their mindset and how they operate, isn't it? Yeah.
Wow. Loving this conversation. I knew I would. So another topic I wanted to bring us on to, as we alluded to earlier in the conversation, is your health journey this year. So I wanted to rewind to January 2025 and ask you, in your words, what happened?
Well, now I sum it up as 100 mile an hour to full stop. That's how I sum up this year. 10th of January, I'd gone from doing everything, having a really full life. If you look back then, I was actually doing 7 or 8 classes a week at the gym. I was going swimming as well on top 3 times a week. I was walking quite long distances solo around my beloved Newstead Abbey, which is a fantastic park not far away from me. I was working full time over 3 days. I was doing 3 12-hour days. I was maxing out, to coin a phrase of our beloved Ed Milet, who is a podcast we both listen to. So I'd gone from really feeling every day I'd packed everything in, I'd done all I wanted, to a sudden full stop. I collapsed at home 10th of January. I was taken into the local hospital, and at first no one could figure out what was quite going on. I was just passing out. I was really poorly. I then first of all got diagnosed heart problem. Okay, can cope with that. Month in hospital of January, very worrying time for you and me. I thought maybe this is the end of the road. You came in to see me, and I just said, well, if next time I pass out, I don't come round at all, then sell the house, David, use it as a deposit and go carry on. You know, that was what we were facing. But I came home for a day, collapsed again. I was back in hospital. I end up with this diagnosis. And a person just came along and said to me, we know what's wrong with you. You've got something called FND. What's FND? Functional neurological disorder. And I thought, well, I don't know anybody with that. What's that then? What's that all about? I was just sent home. I could barely walk. I couldn't move much at all. And I couldn't speak very clearly. And I was just sent home, told to read about it on the internet, and I would eventually get some help. So time went along. I got occupational therapy. I got talking therapies. I got physiotherapy. I started to improve quite a lot and get going again. Then I had a terrible back injury. And then here we were. I can't walk again. I can't put my socks on. I can't get dressed by myself. I was in a mess. So I start to recover from that. And then I had another problem. And I found out I've got a gallstone. Oh, and it can't be just one that can flush itself away. Oh no, I have to have a big gallstone. So they say, oh, you're going to need a gallbladder out. Okay, then that's fine. You're going to need gallbladder operation. So I'm now waiting for that. That was summer this year, but all is fairly calm. But like I say, it was 100 miles an hour to full stop. So then I'd got to recover, and I couldn't work. I couldn't drive. I could barely walk. By the end of the evening, I couldn't talk. I'd lost speech again each day. If I wanted to watch a bit of TV, I could only watch a few minutes because then I couldn't concentrate again. You and I'd have a conversation and I couldn't talk for long because I couldn't concentrate and I couldn't speak. So it was a really tough time. As you well know, you witnessed it all the way through. So
I did.
it's a summary of sort of what happened.
Thank you, Mum. And thank you for bravely, courageously sharing that so openly as well, publicly. There's so much we can learn from this, which we're going to get into. But just to reiterate for people, this is someone prior to the 10th of January who was 8 gym classes a week, driving long distances, working a very manual physical labour job, long hours, and just about doing everything under the sun, looking after neighbours, looking after family. When anyone needed anything, everyone would always come to Mum. She was like a pillar of the community and still is. But you take someone like that who's going at 100 miles an hour and then suddenly pull the carpet out from under their feet. They can't, that you're collapsing and there's no known reason why. The doctors are stumped and unsure, and you're getting moved around from ward to ward because it's as they gradually eliminate one thing. It's not this, let's test for this. It's not this, let's test for this. You're suddenly stuck then in a hospital bed on a shared ward with no idea when you're going to get to go home or if you'll ever get to leave that hospital ever again. And then the next one of these collapses that come on all of a sudden, and there's no controlling them, there's no seeing them coming, they just appear, and you wonder yourself if you're going to be able to regain consciousness, if you're going to survive the next collapse, because you're not sure what's causing them. And then I come in and we have a conversation about the potential very worst thing that might happen and putting things in place after. And it's unbelievable what we were looking at earlier this year. And then the fact we weren't in hospital for a prolonged stay once. You weren't in hospital for a prolonged stay twice. You were back into hospital for a prolonged stay 3 times with 3 completely different diagnoses, prognoses, 3 different conditions, I should say. And we did get to the point as a family where we were saying, oh my goodness, what on earth next? What is it with this year? It's just one thing after another. And I think they say bad things come in 3. Well, they definitely did for us at the start of this year. So just for people listening, just to reiterate how much of a shock and how much this came completely out of the blue. One day you were going at full speed, everything was good. The next day, bam, 100 miles an hour, 100 mile an hour to 0 happened in the period of a few hours, didn't it?
Yes. And I remember saying to you, David, they don't believe me that I used to do yoga, Tai Chi, swim, Pilates, walk, work, drive, shop. David, they don't believe me. I did do all these things. I'm not lying. Honestly. I might be lying here now and I can't move, but honestly, I did do those things. Yeah, it was 100 mile an hour to full stop. Yeah.
So where do we go next? I think I'll be curious as to what was going on for you mentally at that time throughout these being knocked down again and again and again, because I'm interested in what mindset kept you going and kept you just getting up and continuing. And
Yeah.
yeah,
I think when I started with the occupational therapy lady was very good. She had explained more what FND was, what I was going to be facing, how I'd got to now do a little bit, rest a little bit, and fine tune each day to what I could possibly do. She told me it will be a roller coaster. One week you'll have a good week, you think you're getting better. The next week you're suddenly down and worn out for no reason. So I got to understand the condition. Then I started with talking therapies, and that was fantastic. And family perhaps and friends perhaps thought, oh, she's seeing a shrink now, which I didn't like that term, found that very derogatory. But talking therapies helped me to realize that, yes, I was feeling very low. Yes, I was scoring high on the depression levels. And it helped me to start to face the journey I was going to have to make to try and improve this condition and to try and get a better lifestyle every day. So for me, once I could accept that I can't do yoga, I can't do Tai Chi, I can't go swimming, I can't drive the car, I can't go for a long walk, I can't go shopping. Once I could accept all the things I can't do and I couldn't do at that time, I could start to, what can I say, get some joy in the little things I could do. So I was told and ordered to write a journal. Now I am good at listening to orders and following advice and instructions. And I am a person who is open to listening to what the OT said. If she gave me some things to do, I would do it. She told me to start word search. I did that and I followed the instructions and I managed to make small steps forward. The journal was helping me look at the challenging thoughts, and then reflective journaling would see what I'd done well today, how I'd improved. And I could look back and say, oh yeah, against 2 or 3 weeks ago, I can now do this. And against a month ago, I can now do that. But I remember a lot of frustration that the journey and the improvements were very slow. And by gosh, I'd got to learn some patience. And I was a snappy person at that time because I was frustrated, couldn't do what I wanted to do. And I remember I wanted to go and see the snowdrops because I'm a big gardener and love of the outdoors. And I said to my partner, I want to go to Newstead. I want to see the snowdrops. and I had to go in a wheelchair, and he wasn't very good at pushing it, and I nearly fell out a few times, but a bit bumpy. But I got, and I seen my precious snowdrops out, and I thought, I am going to keep doing this, and I'm going to see the seasons change. I'm going to see the flowers. I'm going to do my gardening, but it's been very, very slow, and it certainly teaches you some patience. So it's not an easy journey, but you just have to keep doing it. But the help of the trained therapy ladies has helped me so much, and I can see I'm making a lot of progress now.
Thank you for sharing more. I mean, definitely just taking a second just for a shout out for all of the medical professionals that have been involved, the occupational therapists, the speech therapists, the physiotherapist, the doctors, the nurses, the GP. I'm sure I've missed out some. Everyone that's been involved with helping with your recovery journey, just a huge shout out to them. We wouldn't be where we are now without them. But again, coming back to what you said, I love how you spoke there about when you could barely do anything at all, couldn't walk properly, couldn't talk properly, couldn't even stay up to watch TV for any period of time or have a conversation with me on the phone for any period of time. When the power to do virtually anything had been removed from you, you were still focusing on the small little things that you could do and that you felt grateful and thankful for in that journaling process.
Yeah, definitely. I think once I accepted this is how it is now, at first I just couldn't accept it and I wasn't having it, and I was stubborn. I said, but you don't know me, and this is what I do, and I'm not happy about this. And I'm not happy with the physiotherapy man telling me I'll probably be always walking with a walker. No, young man, what do you know? You're only young. You don't know me. And I was very angry. But once I'd calmed down and got to understanding what FND does to you, how it works, and appreciating that, I can work with it, I can live with it. But it is hard now still saying to a friend, I can speak to you today, but if I'm speaking to you, I can't speak to a family member tonight. If I'm having a conversation with you this morning, I've got to rest this afternoon. But once it can get your head round the energy levels you've got and the, if you like, the brain power you've got, you can cope with it. So it's like the word search. I started off and I could find 3 words and then I just couldn't do any more. But now I can sit for 10, 15 minutes and I can do a whole word search. And I think, yes, I can do that now. So I've made progress.
I mean, this podcast in itself today that we're doing is demonstration of the progress you've made. When you look back to the start of this year and there were points when we couldn't have more than 5-minute conversation. And now look at where we're at, look how long we can speak for. And it's just like nothing's ever changed from my perspective, speaking to you now. The changes that have made have been miraculous. And I know that some of the medical professionals you've been working with have been startled and amazed at the progress you've made and have praised you as being their top patient, their top success story.
Yeah, I think listening to the instructions and following them, it's no good if you're told to do a journal. It's no good if you're of the mindset, what do they know? Oh, they're just all reading it out of a book. They're just young. They've just out of college. If you don't follow the instructions, you don't give it a go, then what's the point in going? What's the point in listening to the advice? I followed it, and the latest thing she's given me to do is a game on my phone. Now, most people love a game on their phone, and I don't like it. And I think, oh my, I've got to do it, she said, and she'll be looking to make sure I've done it. But at least one thing I'm grateful for, she found me one with flowers. So I have to match the little flowers and put them in a pot. So at least it's gardening related. But it's training the brain, you see, and it's switching on certain parts that have switched off. So I appreciate why I do it.
It's funny. I think some people would say, "Oh, it sounds like a dream come true." Going to the doctors and getting ordered to go home and play a game on your phone. That sounds wonderful. But I would say, be very careful what you wish for, because it isn't that wonderful, depending on the circumstances in which you're asked/ordered to do it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Careful what you wish for. I also wanted just to pick up on another way you're inspiring me there in that journey. I know a lot, particularly my generation, myself included, were quite concerned about what other people think about us. And this social media generation, we're quite nervous, and we're all trying to portray a certain image. And what you mentioned there, you wanted to see your snowdrops. You wouldn't let anything stop you. You were perhaps not happy to be pushed around in a wheelchair, but if that's what it takes, you would, you were open to it. And I know that now in the walks around gardens that we've been on recently, you still go with your three-wheeled walker, and there's never any hesitation when you get out of the car. You never say to me, "I'll try and hide it." Put something over it so people don't have to see it's there. Never once have you come across to me as though you're embarrassed about what you're needing to do in order to be mobile, and what enables you to see and do the things you want to do. And I think there's a great lesson in that for us all, just in terms of bravely. What's the word? What am I looking for?
It's acceptance.
Acceptance.
I just accept now, if I want to go for a walk, my three-wheel walker enables me to go for that walk. If I try and do it without, I can't do it. My back hurts, my hips hurt, everything's in too much pain, and I'm too slow. But the three-wheel walker lets me go at, yes, it's a slow pace, it's a steady pace, but it allows me to get out there and walk by the reservoir, walk through the forest. Yeah, I just do it.
But the only reason you can walk now at the speed you can walk, which is much, much faster and much, much further than you could earlier this year, when we couldn't, I don't think at one time we could do one step. And now we can go out and do, walk 1 or 2 miles together. That wouldn't have been possible if you wouldn't have been willing to take one step at a time, to do whatever it takes, using whatever it takes, in order to slowly but surely get better, get stronger, and recover.
You've got to keep going. On a day when you don't feel like it, you've got to tell yourself, this is for my benefit. This is how I'm going to improve. It's like going swimming. It'd be easy to stay in on a cold day, not get your coat on, not get your kit out, and not go. But I know if I go swimming, I'll come out feeling a bit better than I did the day before. And I'm not seeing much improvement from one week to the other. But now I don't measure the lengths. I don't look at the improvement. I just pat myself on the back for getting out the house and going and doing it. Not just talking a good swim, going and doing it. Yeah. So you've just got to keep going. And with the walking, some days I start off really slow and I think, oh, here we go again. We're a bit slow. But after a while, you get going, you speed up slightly. Coming back on the walk, you slow down again. But it just is what it is. So it's just acceptance.
Thank you, Mum. It's inspiring as well. The matter of perspective, like you said with your book you kept, which you still keep now, which is documenting everything you can do and focusing on all what you've done that you couldn't do before. I know some people could turn that on its head and look at that through the lens of, that's just a list of things you can't do, and that's a record of everything you're now unable to do. But you don't see it like that, and we choose not to see it as a record of what you can't do. It's a record of what you can do. And to make it, yesterday I came back from a bike ride with my club, went over 50 miles together in 7 degrees. It was freezing, it was fun, it was beautiful, autumnal colours. But I got back, and I'm not going to lie, I was frustrated. And I said to my partner, "Do you know I'm frustrated?" And she said, "Why?" I said, "Well, those last 5 miles of that ride, I was slow, I was lagging behind. I struggled to keep up with the club. And they were having to wait for me at the tops of some of those hills, and I felt like my fitness was suffering, and I got really in my head." And she reminded me, "But look at what you've just done and achieved. Who you know, think of all the people in the world who can't ride a bike at all, don't have that opportunity, could never do what you've just done, and realize that, yes, your last 5 miles, you might have suffered a bit because you were a bit tired, because in reality, you haven't trained that much recently. But instead of looking at that last 5%, look at the 95%. You've had a fantastic ride with your club. You had cake at the cafe. The weather was beautiful. Look at the views you've seen. It's all a matter of what you choose to focus on. And she totally reminded me and grounded me to, oh my God, what am I doing? Just focusing on that last little bit where I was tired up the hills and the club had to wait for me. They even said to me when I apologised, oh, do you know what, Dave? Actually, we really appreciated the rest. So don't apologise at all. But I took it very personally and I felt inadequate. And I got really in my head and angry with myself rather than just accepting that, okay, I was a bit tired at the end. So what? You know.
Exactly. Yeah.
So as we start to draw our conversation to a close, what have been your biggest learnings and reflections from this journey that you've been in, this 100 miles an hour to zero, full stop? Because I know we've had some great conversations about that and the things you've looked back on and the things you've decided to change in your life. What's been some of your reflections there?
I think I'd say if you have a plan and you want to do things, do them. Get the date in the diary, make the plan, make the arrangements. Because the other year I thought I'd love to go away for a weekend with my best friend. I'd love to go walking together in Derbyshire, just have a girly day, bit of shopping, bit of food out. And then suddenly that chance was taken away from me because I hadn't got the energy. I wasn't well enough, can't walk much anymore. And I knew I just couldn't do it. So if you've got things you want to do, don't think, well, I'll do that next year or the year after, or the year after that, because the time's going by quicker than you think. And if you want to do something, like I say, get the date in the diary. I often say to you, do things with your friend. Go and see your friend in London. Don't put it off. Go and do it, because you don't know what tomorrow holds. You know, my ability to do everything I could do was taken away overnight. And you often hear this. I watch DIY SOS, and it's often a sad story of a person's had an injury and now they're in a wheelchair and the whole house needs adapting. I was looking at that at one point. I couldn't get upstairs. I'd got a toilet downstairs that I was using, a bed downstairs. I thought, well, I don't know, I could put a lift in maybe one day if it comes to that. But I was determined that it wasn't going to. And now I can get upstairs. But again, just saying, don't put things off. Go and do it. Go and do it.
I really like that. I really like that.
Those parties. Make those arrangements. Have those parties. Don't leave the family celebrations that it's just you all get together for a funeral. Don't leave it like that. Plan a summer barbecue. Plan an autumn get together. Make some happy parties as well as the terrible funeral ones.
I agree. We all think we're so invincible. And as someone who, you know, I've been very much part of your journey this year, and then I've also been to several family funerals to the point that we've been joking somewhat morbidly that we need a discount card like you get at Costa for the crematorium, because we seem to have been there that often as a family. It's unbelievable. We've got them on speed dial at the minute. But the point is, someday never comes. And I think particularly in my generation, we all think we're invincible and that, oh, health problems will never happen to me. That'll be like a good 30 or 40 years time. But it's not necessarily like that. And my partner works on a ward with people with FND, and FND and a number of other conditions can come on at any age. It's not limited to people above a certain age only. You never know what's around the corner, and an accident can happen. Everything can change, or one of your loved ones can become ill and you can end up being a full-time carer, and then your window of opportunity is gone. So if you've got a window of opportunity, don't let it drift away. Don't kick it down the road. Grasp it with both hands whilst it's there. I had that opportunity to go traveling, but it doesn't need to be a year of traveling around the world on your own. It could just be a weekend or just a day or just a few hours to say to those friends, guys, we keep saying we're going to meet up and have a coffee. What's everyone doing on Sunday? Let's just meet up and have the flipping coffee and get it done, because you just don't know what's around the corner. So it's such an important point you make there, and thank you for sharing it.
Seize the moment.
Seize the moment. Carpe diem. Seize the moment. As my mate, sumo guy Paul McGee said several times in his recent presentation, carpe diem, seize the moment. Otherwise, the moment might pass.
Yes. Yeah. And you won't get the chance again.
I remember you saying to me one specific thing that moved me. You said to me, do you know, I look back, David, and me and my best friend, we spoke so many times about going on a walking holiday, just a couple of days walking holiday. That can't be much to organise, you know. Get an Airbnb, choose somewhere you're going to go to Wales, go Scotland, wherever, just go walking holiday. Easy, right? You said to me, we didn't do it. And I look back and I so regret that we didn't do that when we could have. We just took it for granted. We thought we'll be able to walk forever. Just a pair of boots, chuck them in the car. What could possibly stop us? And then suddenly we're in the position where you couldn't do that and couldn't just go in the car, couldn't just go on a walking holiday. And that moved me when you told me that, because it made me realize just the fragility of life again and the importance of make that thing happen. Don't let that dream fade away.
Yes. Yeah. And don't let one week just drift into the next. And life just being about work, especially for people of your age group, where you're just all working so many hours and you're all working so hard and there's not much free time. It's easy to just use your free time just as a downtime and a rest to get ready for another working week. And then you've not done anything really nice, really exciting, not been out anywhere, not met up with friends, not had an adventure, not seen a garden, in my case.
And I think it's just one other point I wanted to give you the opportunity to share in your words. Just that reminder to not ignore and avoid the signs. If there's some signs there that something's off kilter.
Yeah. Listen to your body. Do practice yoga. It's a great thing to do for everyone. Look into meditation. Think about that. Don't see these things as woohoo. I hate that saying. Where's that nonsense saying come from? Don't think of it like that. Look after yourself, because if you're in a good place and you're well, then you're well enough to look after others, care for others, encourage others and support others. But if your glass is not full, then there's nothing to pour from.
Exactly. You can't pour from an empty glass. And yes, I think what I was thinking when you were speaking there was, don't see these things as an intervention, and don't wait until you have a problem to suddenly start, oh, I'll exercise and I'll eat well and I'll do yoga and I'll meditate when I have to, because as you've seen, that doesn't work or can end up being extremely unpleasant, to say the least. You better to put these proactive measures in now. Take better care of yourself now, because you've only got one body, you've only got one life, and you've got to take care of it because it's going to be with you forever. You can't just swap it like a job. You can't just swap it like a car or a house or a partner to some degree, but because it's there and you've got to keep it well and healthy forever. So it's like my teachers used to say at school, short-term pain, long-term gain. You want to be looking after yourself to preserve that body that you've got for the future. And when things feel off kilter, when you get that feeling and that sensation that something's wrong, something's not right, I'm missing something, I'm not feeling right. I've had it many times in my life, like rogue backache that just won't leave me alone, headaches, nosebleeds, all sorts of things which I'll spare you the details of. But when my body's just screaming at me, David, something's not right, it tends to be that kind of something in the real world, something in the external world, something mentally is leading to these, like it's being physically manifested in some way. And then once I address the issue, the root cause of the issue, then it goes away and I get better. and the backache goes away and the nosebleeds stop, for example.
I think you've got to realise that self-care is not selfish. Self-care actually benefits everyone else around you. Because if you're in a good space, you're there to serve others. So it's really important.
You have to put your own oxygen mask on, and you can't pour from an empty cup.
Yes.
Brilliant. So just to round off our fantastic conversation today, which is even better than I thought it would be, this is what I want to start doing in every episode of the podcast. I want to start with this episode. What would be your message if the whole world were listening?
That's hard, really, because is it a message like we've just been talking about self-care, to prioritise self-care and the reasons why? Or would it be another message to go out there and speak to your neighbours, speak to those living nearby you, ask if they're okay, ask if there's anything you can do to help? Because what's got me through this year is the help of friends and the help of neighbours. And without those people close by, I wouldn't have had all the support I've had. And it's not been paid support. The help of neighbours hasn't had a bill attached. It's been kindness, generosity, true care through friendship. And the care goes both ways and the friendship goes both ways. So I'd say to people, don't just live a life alone in your house or your home, on your street, on your road. Speak to those living at the side of you. Take an interest in those people down the road. If they're elderly, take an interest, show a bit of support, show a bit of a care, because one day you might need that back. I'd got people, I'm late 50s now, I'd got people in their 80s and one who's now 90 looking after me, watering my garden when I couldn't do it. And of course, I'd do the same for them now. But like I say, you never know when that friendship, when that neighbourly care is needed. So go out, speak to your neighbours, make friends of them. And a little hello and a 5-minute chat to someone who lives alone is priceless. It really is.
Wow, thank you, Mum. And I'm glad you added that bit at the end, because I was going to ask you, if someone says, yes, but I work full time, I'm raising a family, I haven't got a second to breathe, like I'm so busy, I haven't got time to go round and visit and have a coffee with someone next door. Like you said there, but I'd leave it to you to say, it doesn't need to be that much, does it?
No. When you're putting the wheelie bin out, say you've been at work all day, you're tired, your dinner's waiting, but you know you've got to put the wheelie bin out because it's bin day. That's the moment to say, is next door's bin out? Is he okay? Is his light on? Is his curtain shut? And if he's out there putting his wheelie bin out, just stop and say, hello, say, how are you today? Comment on the weather, have 5 minutes chat. Because the other day, a friend and a neighbour nearby was pumping up a flat tyre. So I just shouted across, are you okay? Can you manage? I've got a tyre inflator if you need one. If you need a lift, I'm around. And just that moment of someone acknowledging, oh, I'm struggling a bit. And, oh, that's really nice. She's offered me some help. You know, it matters a lot. And it makes for a better community and a better life.
Very, very wise words. I'd say to people, yeah, don't spend all your time with your earpods in, looking down at the floor on social media. Every now and again, look up and observe the world around you, the people you live next to. I have made good friends with my neighbours, and not because I need anything from them, but because I like to get to know the people who I live near. On the occasion I need something, they're there. On the occasion they need something, I'm there. But it just feels nicer to be part of a little community and to have a few people around, so you're not just feeling like you are just living on your own together, with sort of faceless, nameless neighbours, and you have no idea who they are, because you never know when you might need help. And you know, there's no such thing as a selfless kind act. It's good to help others as well. You feel good from doing it. Sometimes it's the best thing you can do if you're feeling down and crap and rubbish. is just go out and do something nice for someone else, because it lifts you up in the process of lifting them up as well.
Very true. Very true. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
I remember when I was in hospital, the lady opposite suffered with dementia, and I was really poorly. And they came along and they said, "Mabel, would you like a drink?" And she said, "No." "Are you sure you don't want a drink, Mabel?" And I just shouted across, "Mabel has tea with 1 sugar. Just give her a drink because she does need one." I was poorly at the time. But the nurses thanked me when I left for the kindness shown to other patients.
there you go, folks. It's pouring from your cup, even when there's only a couple of drops in it. And I remember at that time you were isolated to a bed, couldn't leave that bed for fear that you'd collapse. No one knew what was wrong with you. You were on a triage ward, waiting for someone to try and put you somewhere to try and then figure out what on earth was wrong with you. And even then, in that state, spending most of the time asleep or half conscious, you were still able to just look out and do a kind act for someone in another bed. So even when you think it's impossible, you've got no time, it's always possible, and there's always time.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. I've been very excited for this to happen. It's been even better than I thought it would be, and I knew it was going to be great. You are a beacon of hope for everyone out there, and particularly people who are now diagnosed with FND, that recovery is possible and you can get back to living your life and enjoying the things you enjoyed before. The important thing being to follow the guidance and the advice of the medical professionals and do the things that you're told to do without putting them off or feeling awkward or thinking that's a load of nonsense or a load of crap and that's woo-woo. It's so important to be open-minded, because that's what will get you the results, and it did for you. You're a proven living, breathing, walking example that it does work when you do the things you're told to do. Don't give up.
That's it. Don't give up.
Thank you, Mum. You continue to inspire me in all that you do, and I look forward to further conversations with you.
And I feel like a film star now.
You feel like a film star now. Well, thank you for coming on the show, and thank you everyone who's listening for joining us. I will see you again in the coming weeks, and all that's left to say is hope you have a fantastic day ahead, Mum, and same to everyone listening. Thank you for joining us today. I've been David Garwood, you've been Lyn Cobley. This has been the Solo Coach Podcast. Thank you very much for listening. The Solo Coach Podcast.